The champagne glass slipped from my fingers when I saw them together. My sister Emma and my boyfriend Jake, wrapped around each other at what was supposed to be my engagement party. 3 years I'd given that man. 3 years of loyalty, love, and planning our future. But there stood Emma, wearing the smile I thought was reserved for sisters who had your back, kissing him like I'd never existed. My parents just watched, uncomfortable but silent. Nobody stopped it. Nobody defended me. That's when I realized I was completely alone in a room full of family. Betrayal hurts. But what if the person who saves you is the one who should have been off limits? Stick around, this story's got a twist so wild, it'll leave you breathless. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, you're about to hear one of the most intense stories of betrayal, revenge, and forbidden love that will leave you absolutely speechless. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around. This one's a roller coaster. Now let's get into what happened next. I ran out into the rain, mascara streaming down my face, my heart shattered into a million pieces. The cold drops mixed with my tears as I stumbled down the street in my expensive heels. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to escape the humiliation, the betrayal, the suffocating pain of being replaced by my own blood. How long had this been happening? How many times had they laughed behind my back? The questions tortured me as I collapsed on a bench in the park, sobbing until I couldn't breathe. That's when the black Mercedes pulled up beside me. The window rolled down smoothly, revealing a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine cover. Dark hair with silver at the temples, sharp jawline, eyes that could read your soul. His suit probably cost more than my car. "You're going to catch pneumonia out here," he said, his voice deep and commanding. Something about him made me forget to be scared. Maybe it was the gentleness in those dangerous eyes. Maybe I just had nothing left to lose. "I don't care," I whispered, but he was already opening the door, offering his jacket. "Come on, let me at least get you somewhere warm." Against every reasonable instinct, I got in that car. He drove me to an all-night diner, ordered hot coffee, and didn't ask a single question. He just sat there, this gorgeous stranger, giving me space to fall apart. When I finally looked up, really looked at him, something electric passed between us. "I'm Victoria," I managed. "Dominic," he replied, and that name would change everything. We talked until sunrise. I told him about the betrayal, and he listened like my pain actually mattered. He told me he understood family disappointment, though he kept his own story vague. There was mystery around him, danger even, but also protection. When he dropped me home, he handed me his card. "If you need anything, Victoria, anything at all." His fingers brushed mine, and I felt more alive than I had in years. I watched his car disappear, not knowing I'd just met the one man who could destroy me, or save me. Days passed, and I couldn't stop thinking about Dominic. Meanwhile, Emma moved into Jake's apartment like she'd won some prize. My parents acted like I should just get over it, move on, stop making things awkward. But how do you move on when your whole life implodes? I stared at Dominic's card every night, fighting the urge to call. Finally, on the 7th day, I gave in. He answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting. "Dinner? Tonight." It wasn't a question. It was a promise. Dominic took me to a restaurant where people whispered and stared when he entered. The owner practically bowed. I realized this man wasn't just wealthy. He was powerful in ways I didn't understand yet. Over wine and perfect food, he made me laugh for the first time since the betrayal. He made me feel seen, valued, beautiful. When his hand covered mine across the table, electricity shot through my entire body. "You deserve so much better than how they treated you," he said intensely. I believed him. Our relationship ignited like wildfire. Dominic was attentive, passionate, protective in ways Jake never was. He took me to his penthouse overlooking the city, and when he kissed me against the floor-to-ceiling windows, I forgot my own name. This wasn't just rebound attraction. This was consuming, addictive, real. He made me feel like a queen. But there were phone calls he took in other rooms, his voice turning cold as ice. A meeting he couldn't explain. A darkness behind his eyes that both thrilled and terrified me. 3 weeks into our whirlwind romance, Dominic invited me to a business dinner. "There's someone I want you to meet," he said carefully. We arrived at an exclusive club, and he led me to a private room. My heart stopped when I saw who was sitting there. Jake. My ex-boyfriend Jake, looking pale and terrified. "Victoria," Dominic said calmly. "I believe you know my son." The room spun. His son? Jake was Dominic's son? This couldn't be happening. Jake's face went white as snow. "Dad? What is she doing here?" Dominic's expression remained unreadable, but his hand tightened protectively on my waist. "This is Victoria, the woman I've been telling you about, the one I'm serious about." I watched Jake's world crumble exactly like mine had at that engagement party. But this wasn't revenge I'd planned. I hadn't known. The shock on my face must have been obvious because Dominic looked at me with sudden concern. "You didn't know," he stated quietly. "You're his father?" I could barely form words. Dominic's jaw clenched. "You're the Victoria? The ex he cheated on?" The pieces were falling into horrible place. Jake stood up, knocking over his chair. "This is insane. You can't date her. She's my ex-girlfriend." Dominic's voice dropped to a dangerous level I had never heard. "The ex-girlfriend you betrayed with her own sister? That ex-girlfriend?" The power dynamic in the room shifted violently. Jake looked like a child being scolded, and Dominic looked every inch the powerful man he was. I should have run. Any sane person would have. But I stood frozen between past and present, between the boy who broke me and the man who'd started healing me. "I didn't plan this," I whispered. Dominic turned to me, his eyes softening. "Neither did I. But I'm not sorry it happened. Forbidden. Dangerous. Mine." Jake exploded. "This is sick. You're doing this to punish me." Dominic laughed coldly. "Son, not everything is about you. I fell for Victoria before I knew who she was. And now that I do know, it doesn't change a damn thing. The tension could have been cut with a knife." Jake looked between us, disgust and disbelief wearing on his face. "Emma was right about you." He spat at me. "You're vindictive and manipulative." That's when Dominic moved. 1 second he was beside me, the next he had Jake against the wall. "Watch your mouth," he growled. "You don't get to cheat on someone, steal her sister, and then play victim when she moves on." The protective fury in Dominic's voice made something inside me break open. No one had ever defended me like that. Jake left the club humiliated and furious. Alone in the private room, Dominic and I faced each other across an impossible situation. "I should go," I said, but I didn't move. "Do you want to?" he asked, stepping closer. "No," I admitted. "But this is complicated. He's your son." Dominic cupped my face gently. "He's also a grown man who made his choices. You were healing before you knew our connection. That was real, Victoria. What we have is real." His thumb brushed my cheek, and I leaned into his touch, knowing I was falling for someone I absolutely shouldn't. We tried to stay apart for exactly 3 days. 3 days of torture, of missing each other, of realizing that some connections don't care about complications. When Dominic showed up at my door at midnight, we didn't even speak. He kissed me like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning, and I kissed him back with everything I had. Right or wrong, complicated or not, this man had become essential to me. We fell into bed and into something deeper than I'd ever known. In his arms, I finally understood what real love felt like. But the universe wasn't done testing us. Emma called the next morning, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I heard you're dating someone, Jake's father. Really, Victoria? That's low even for you." I almost laughed at the audacity. "You stole my boyfriend, and I'm the low one?" She huffed. "I didn't steal anyone. Jake and I fell in love. But going after his father? That's calculated revenge, and you know it." I looked at Dominic sleeping peacefully beside me and smiled. "This has nothing to do with you or Jake. Goodbye, Emma." My parents demanded a family meeting, which was ridiculous, considering they'd enabled Emma's betrayal. But I went with Dominic by my side because I was done hiding. My father took one look at Dominic, and recognition flickered across his face. "Dominic Castellano," he said slowly. "The Dominic Castellano?" my mother gasped. Emma and Jake, who'd also been summoned, looked confused. I was confused too. "Someone want to explain?" I asked. My father's expression was grim. "Your boyfriend is the most powerful man in the city's underground. He's dangerous, Victoria." The revelation should have scared me. Dominic was involved in things I'd only seen in movies, but he didn't deny it, didn't make excuses. He just stood tall and met my father's accusations head on. "I've never lied to Victoria about who I am. She knows what she needs to know, and I've never put her in danger," my father scoffed. "She's in danger just being near you." Dominic's hand found mine. "Then I'll spend every day protecting her, something this family failed to do when it actually mattered." The room fell silent. Emma had the grace to look ashamed, but Jake was red with anger. "You don't deserve her," he spat at his father. Dominic smiled without humor. "That's the first thing you've said I agree with. I don't deserve Victoria, but I love her anyway, and unlike you, I won't betray that." Hearing him say he loved me in front of everyone made my heart soar. I squeezed his hand. "I love you too," I said clearly. My parents looked horrified. Emma looked sick. But Jake looked absolutely destroyed. The next few weeks were chaos. My family cut me off, which honestly felt like freedom. Jake tried everything to break us up, even going to the authorities with wild accusations against his own father. But Dominic's empire was built too carefully, too legally in the places that mattered. What Jake did accomplish was revealing his true character. Emma started seeing who she'd really chosen. I watched from a distance as their relationship crumbled under the weight of Jake's obsession with destroying what Dominic and I had. Then came the night everything changed again. Dominic and I were at his penthouse when armed men burst through the door. Not cops, rivals. Someone had leaked Dominic's location, his security schedule, everything. Dominic pushed me behind him immediately, his gun appearing from somewhere I hadn't known he kept one. "Stay down," he commanded. The gunfire was deafening. I screamed as Dominic took a bullet to the shoulder, protecting me, but he didn't stop fighting. His backup arrived within minutes, but those minutes felt like hours of pure terror. At the hospital, while doctors worked on Dominic, police questioned me. That's when Detective Morrison told me something that shattered my world again. The leak came from someone close to Dominic, someone who knew his schedule intimately. My blood ran cold. "Who?" The detective showed me phone records. Jake. His own son had set him up to be killed, so consumed by jealousy and hatred that he betrayed his own father. But there was more. Emma had known. She'd tried to talk Jake out of it, but she'd known and never warned anyone. Dominic survived, but the betrayal cut deeper than any bullet. When he was stable enough to talk, I held his hand and told him everything. I watched this powerful man break as he processed that his own son had tried to have him killed. "I'm sorry," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "I brought this into your life. My connection to Jake, it caused this." Dominic pulled me close despite his injuries. "No. His choices are his own. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Victoria. Don't you dare apologize for that." Jake was arrested. Emma, facing potential charges as an accessory, finally came to see me. She looked broken, nothing like the triumphant sister who'd stolen my boyfriend. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I was jealous. You always had it together and I wanted what you had, but I never thought Jake would. I never thought he'd go this far. I should have felt vindicated, but I just felt sad. You destroyed our family for a man who turned out to be a would-be murderer. Was it worth it?" She couldn't answer, just cried harder. Dominic's recovery was slow but steady. Through it all, I never left his side. He'd lost his son, lost the illusion of family he'd held on to. But he told me every day that he'd gained something more valuable. "You stood by me," he'd say. "When everyone else ran, you stayed." The truth was, I'd finally found where I belonged. Not with the family that dismissed me, not with the man who betrayed me, but with this complicated, dangerous, deeply loving man who saw me for exactly who I was. 3 months after the shooting, Dominic took me back to the diner where we'd first really talked. We sat in the same booth and he took my hand across the same table. "I know my world is complicated," he started. "I know loving me means accepting things most people wouldn't understand. But Victoria, you've become my entire world. You've given me something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope." He pulled out a small velvet box, and my heart stopped. "Marry me. Choose this crazy life with me." I looked at this man who defended me, protected me, loved me through impossible circumstances. This man who'd been shot because of his connection to me and never once blamed me. This man who made me feel more alive and valued than I'd ever felt. "Yes," I said, not hesitating even a second. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on my finger, a perfect emerald surrounded by diamonds, and kissed me like we were the only two people in the world. Around us, the diner erupted in applause from strangers who'd witnessed the proposal. So that's my story, everyone. From rock bottom at my own engagement party to finding true love in the most unexpected place. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please smash that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best blessings, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment below and let me know. Would you have forgiven your sister like Victoria eventually did? Or would some betrayals be unforgivable? I really want to know what you think. See you in the next video. Stay safe and I'll catch you later.